awesome out for Universe 6. Talk about invoking emotion. This episode of Dragon Ball Super, that ending, oh my gosh, like, yo. So, I was a little bit spoiled to the fact of what was going to happen in Universe 6 based on the spoilers for next week's episode, because it talked about, in retrospect, Universe 6 going down, but I didn't realize I was going to feel like this. I knew I was going to be a little bit like, but like, damn. This episode of Dragon Ball Super, my gosh. I mean, there were some points in the episode, because, you know, we need to talk about it as a whole, not just the fact that Toei Animation decided to rip our hearts out with the episode of Dragon Ball Super, but there was other stuff in the episode that I want to talk about as well. So let's start jumping in. For starters, we had Goku versus the remaining members of Universe 2, and then we had Piccolo and Gohan versus the remaining members of Universe 6. Now, the Goku versus those guys, I was like, yo, what was going on? I believe it was 3 of the remaining members of Universe 2, the last ones. They were going up against Goku, and I was like, are you kidding me right now? And I was joking with a couple of you on Twitter and in the comments of YouTube about, imagine, because we were so ecstatic, like, after last week's episode. You know what? It was a pain of dealing with Ribrianne, but hey, at least we got rid of Ribrianne, right? I was like, imagine, you know, next week's episode, we're gonna still have to deal with her in the stands, and we did. We had Ribrianne with the corny love speeches. I was like, bro, Ribrianne, I got a series for you, right? I got a series you would fit perfectly in, and you would be a king or a queen amongst everybody, because, you know, you're into that love stuff, and love is powerful, right? It's a little series called Fairy Tail Hiromashima. If you decide to ever do a sequel, you can bring Ribrianne and those people in there, because, my gosh, we had male Ribriannes, bro. We had, I wasn't feeling it that much. I mean, it was goofy and zany, but what the hell was going on with those dudes that one of them was straight up dressed? I think they were all dressed like the previous ones, and I feel like calling them Sailor Scouts. So for all intents and purposes, you know who I'm talking about. We're calling them Sailor Scouts. And I felt as though it was just, wow, like, why are you wasting my time, bro? I thought we was done with this. We got rid of Ribrianne, and then we got more motherfuckers. Like, it was too goofy for me. Now, the fight with the 2 remaining Namekians from Universe 6 versus Gohan and Piccolo, that fight was lit. That fight was like, yo, on point. And then when we found out something which is interesting, because I read a bit of it, but I haven't read all of it, of the fan manga, the multiverse one or whatever, but apparently something that they did in this week's episode of Dragon Ball Super was something that was done in the fan manga as well, which people are saying, hey, I wonder if Toei got it from them, because the Namekians basically took all of the, or most of the Namekians from Namek in Universe 6, and they fused all together, similar to what Piccolo did with Kami and Nail, where he kind of just absorbed them into him. They did the same thing with almost every Namekian. I think it was most of them. I don't think it was the entirety of the planet. And they became one with all the Namekians, and there was 2 of them. So that was really cool and interesting, and it kind of made me think like, yo, if they're really looking at the multiverse manga, we might see more stuff, because there's been little inklings here or there of them doing things that were very similar. Now, honestly, it's a huge possibility they never even read it or know of it or anything like that, and it's just a coincidence, because, hey, that's a possibility of something that could happen in Dragon Ball, right? But I thought that was pretty neat, and it also showcased why Gohan and Piccolo, but in particular Gohan, would have a problem with any of these Namekians, because it's like, well, okay, let's just say that even on Piccolo's level, Gohan should be way, way stronger. We know at the end of Z, and if Gohan is at the very least at that point or stronger, he should be on like Boo's level. These Namekians shouldn't be on that at all. So the fact that they absorbed almost all of the Namekians in them, that's why they were able to give up a good fight, and Piccolo throwing out the strategy, and one of them lost their arms and shit. It was lit. It was a really, really dope fight. And at the same time, I'm like, damn, because, you know, these are the remaining members of Universe 6, right? And they get out of here, it's donezo for Universe 6. So the entire time I'm thinking, this is it, yo. This is it. So we had one really, really good and awesome fight, the Namekians versus Gohan and Piccolo. Then we had one ridiculous, like, I don't care for the love and Ribrianne and all that shit. I just didn't. So I wasn't feeling that fight. I felt it was okay, but it was just too zany and too like, what's going on here, bro? We got male Sailor Scouts up in here. What are you doing? But then, in the end, I do got to give props to Universe 2 in one regard, that they stood themselves onto the very bitter end. They didn't change up. They wasn't, no, please, I really don't want to die. Like, they straight up was like, yo, we're going out exactly how we came in, and they stood, you know, true to their character. So I gotta give a little props to Universe 2, as much as I really was so sick to death of Rib Rian and these fake wannabe Rib Rian dudes and shit like that. Like, but I give respect where it's due, and they stood true to their character, even though they know, hey, us and everybody we care about are dying now, but they did their thing, so it is what it is. But Universe 6, and I knew, coming into this one, I knew how I was gonna feel. I just didn't know to what extent I was gonna feel, because I care a lot about these characters. It's been years already since Universe 6 was introduced, where we saw them and they looked badass in the squad lineup, and then they added even more characters. I know, based on what I talked about regarding these spoilers in my last video, there's not that many people that were really saddened by the exiting or the death or the demise of Kale and Caulifla, but I really felt it, especially for Caulifla, just because that's one of my faves, you know what I'm saying? So I was distraught over them too. Then of course you gotta see Hit go, which it was kind of quick on things. I think they didn't want to get us that emotional, because they were pretty quick with the exit for certain characters like Hit and you know, Kaba. I was looking at him, I was like, I hope he says something like, hey, please wish us back, whatever, but it was still like, it was sad, you know what I'm saying? Almost all of them. But the one that hit the nail on the head was the ending, the one that broke my heart. Champa and Beerus's farewell, Vados giving the little bow and shit like that, because it's all fun and games and jokes and shit until, hey, they're actually gone. And when Champa did that, I was like, okay, you know, you wanted to leave it as is. Champa was trying to not really, because I'm sure Champa felt a certain way or whatever, but he stood true to his character as well, and it just basically gave him like a, fuck you. But Beerus, you can tell from what he said, and I'm going to explain for some people that might have misunderstood, when Beerus looked at him and then turned his head and he said, say something. Now, a lot of people were confused. Who was he talking to? What was he talking about? From what I gather, and it seems to be pretty clear, Beerus was basically in such shock that, you know, he didn't say nothing to Champa, and then once Champa disappeared and turned around, it was kind of like him in shock saying, say something, like he should have said something to Champa, or he needs to say something now, but he was just so distraught. That's his brother at the end of the day. We know, no matter how much bickering and how much they go at it or whatever, we even seen in the Universe 6 tournament, and I've said this before, he gave up his whole wish. He had a great, you know, he could have done whatever he wanted. He could have wished for anything, and he wished for Planet Earth for his brother, so you know he really cares about Champa. He does. It's just a sibling rivalry, right? So you know that he was distraught when he said say something. So going into next week's episode, it's going to be brutal, because not only that, you got Beerus is sad as hell, distraught, but then you got Vegeta, because Kaba was his student, you know what I'm saying? Kaba was calling him master. He kind of felt like, if you look at psychologically what's going through Vegeta's head right now, you got to analyze it for a second and think, he's essentially feeling like he's experiencing the loss of his home planet yet again, because he was really hyped. You saw it, even though he's Vegeta, so he's not going to be through the roof, but he was really hyped from the moment he found out that there's another planet Vegeta, well, not planet Vegeta, but you know, the Saiyans are on the original planet Saddle or Salad, and they're, you know, in Universe 6 and everything like that. So he grew a bond with him. That's why he even would be a master to him. He even helped him out in the Tournament of Power. So the fact that Kaba died, when Vegeta said, I'm in a bad mood right now, Vegeta, go in. This is getting me hyped for next week, that Vegeta's really just going to be an absolute monster, and it's going to be crazy. Now, something that we do need to talk about, because a lot of people are saying, oh, it's not sad. We know that there's Super Dragon Balls, and more than likely they're all going to get wished back. But you got to think for a second, in terms of the series, right? Beerus, in his mind, for example, or anybody looking, they don't know the certainty of who's going to win this tournament, right? Beerus is hoping, and, you know, he's expecting, like, hey, you guys better do the job. But at the end of the day, we don't really know if Universe 7 can win. On top of that, there's the doubts in everybody's mind because of Jiren. They know that at the end of the day, Jiren is somebody that even Goku couldn't take out, and, you know, he can't go into Ultra Instinct at any given moment. Even in this episode, they address, like, it's getting harder, seemingly, for Goku to go into Ultra Instinct, because his body needs a bigger shock, in a sense. So in terms of the characters and in universe, they're all sad, because they're like, we don't know the certainty of whether or not we can get the Super Dragon Balls and wish all these people back. So yeah, the characters are going to definitely be distraught. And at the same time, as far as a viewer goes, yeah, you can have in the back of your mind, more than likely, 99.9%, Universe 7 is going to win, get the Super Dragon Balls, and wish them back. But it's still a sad thing, nonetheless, because we can't 100% say that, hey, Universe 7 is going to be getting the Dragon Balls. For all you know, maybe the Super Dragon Balls don't even work no more. You never know what could happen. I mean, it's more than likely guaranteed. Let's be real. It's more than likely guaranteed they are going to come back, but there is always that small doubt. And on top of that, it's sad as fuck looking at these characters feeling the way they feel. Beerus, the god of destruction, one of the most strongest characters in all of Dragon Ball, is also hurt. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely felt the character's pain. It really honestly saddened me. I didn't think that the Champa and Beerus thing was going to be the biggest thing, but that broke me. Like, I ain't gonna lie, I was like, damn, like, I was sad for Caulifla, I was sad for Kale, Hit, Kaba, you know, even the Namekians, because they really tried hard and shit like that, but that Champa and Beerus scene at the end, and the say something that... Overall, honestly, the episode as a whole, it was a pretty damn good episode. I would argue the Universe 2 stuff, I didn't really care about their fight with Goku. It was just kind of like, whatever, Goku blasted him at the end. I'm not a fan of the Sailor Moon type of genre shit that they've been implementing, so that was the only part of the episode that I wasn't a fan of. The fight with the Namekians and Gohan and Piccolo, that was hype as hell. The goodbye scene with Universe 6 and even Universe 2, that was good stuff. So, as a whole, the episode was still pretty damn good. Wasn't perfect, but it was still pretty damn good. So, I'm going to say I'm leaning between 7 and 5, maybe even 8. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 because it was still very solid, and it was tragic as hell. Very good episode. Honestly, aside from a couple of hits or misses since the Goku versus Jiren fight, even adding the fact that, hey, you know, the Goku show, haha, whatever, Dragon Ball Super has, for the most part, been somewhat consistent. Again, we had a couple of lumps and bumps with the Kefla shit or whatever, but aside from that, it's been pretty solid. In this episode, it brought the feels. Like, I don't know if there's any more universes left that'll really make me or invoke that emotion from me for being sad for them, but Universe 6, I knew it was going to happen because we've been with them for years. So, sad ending. You know, Vegeta's charged up. Beerus is going to be screaming at them, you better get this job done, I want my brother back. So, it's a good setup for what's to come in the remaining episodes of the Tournament of Power, which I believe we only have 13 minutes left, if I'm not mistaken. So, it's coming down to the wire. I'm really curious, though. Did you cry? How did you feel at the ending of this episode, seeing Beerus having to say goodbye to his brother that he honestly does care about? Did you feel it? What was the character that you were saddest to see go the most? And at the end of the day, how did you feel about the episode? Again, I ain't gonna lie, the Universe 2 shit, I was not feeling it up until the end. The end, you know, the goodbye was fine, but the fight, I just didn't care for it. The Namekians from Universe 6, though, they threw down, and I was hype as hell. And as a whole, it still was a pretty damn good episode. In your overall thoughts, what are your predictions for the remaining episodes of the Tournament of Power? Can they get the job done with Jiren? Are we gonna have to see Vegeta go into Ultra Instinct and then fusion Vegito Ultra Instinct? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where it's starting to look like how we're gonna be able to take out this monster known as Jiren. But that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and do a little stalking on my Facebook to get more when the video ends. I'm Finebo World, and as always, people, have an awesome day. And remember the golden rule. Anime and manga for life, boy. Bow. Have an awesome day.